Episode 1. From the moment we are born, none of us truly know what our future holds. But for witches, it is an entirely different story. In a peaceful forest, our protagonist suddenly brings a tub of laundry out to wash. Just because of a single piece of cloth, Coco has polluted the water source. After finishing the laundry, she gathers her things and explains to a nearby deer, "This stream will be back to normal soon because it's been enchanted." Sure enough, as soon as Coco steps onto the bank, the water becomes crystal clear again. The deer nearby can drink freely without a single worry. Every time she witnesses such beauty, Coco can't help but think how wonderful magic is. In this world filled with wonders, only witches can cast spells. Ordinary people like Coco can only be the recipients of it. Being born a witch is considered a great stroke of luck. Coco isn't one of them, so she can only sit and daydream. Occasionally, she gets excited and tries to chant spells to turn towels into flying capes. As a result, they get swept away by the wind, and she has to scramble after them. By chance, she notices a flying carriage landing right in front of her house. Excitedly, she puts the towel back and rushes downstairs. But because she was in such a hurry, the young girl accidentally bumps into a guest. Seeing Coco's timid apology, he graciously lets it go. Then, he quietly observes 3 women competing to pick out fabrics. Coco quickly realizes they are the guests who arrived in the carriage. However, this polite young man is different. He came looking for smoke-colored fabric. Seeing how busy the household is, he waits patiently for a moment. Hearing this, Coco offers to take the guests' measurements herself. Her main goal is to earn points with her mother so she can go see the flying carriage. "I promise I'll just watch, I won't touch anything." Not wanting to disappoint her daughter, the mother reluctantly agrees, on the condition that she finishes her work early. Hearing this, Coco jumps for joy and immediately gets to work. After receiving the design from the guest, Coco fetches the roll of smoke-colored fabric and begins measuring. She carefully uses her ruler and marks the lines with precision. Taking a deep breath, she draws a perfectly straight line. Finally, she shears through the line with a clean, neat cut. Coco's intense focus leaves the guest deeply impressed. The fabric is cut neatly and decisively. The result is precise and meticulous. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call it magic. Coco bashfully declines the compliment, as magic is something mysterious, precious, and beautiful. And above all, it is sacred. Coco's love for magic began during a festival at a castle long ago. In a secluded spot, she met a masked wizard. Seeing that innocent Coco didn't know what magic was, he explained that magic is a miracle that brings color to the world. It could be a flying carriage in the sky, an eternal stream where the water is always clear, or even pebbles that glow when you step on them. Coco found that magic so shimmering and enchanting that she fell in love with it. She excitedly spent her money on a magic book and showed it to her mother. She rambled on about that encounter and said she wanted to be a witch when she grew up. However, that dream was quickly crushed by her mother. Coco cannot be a witch if she wasn't born with magic. Ordinary people simply don't have the ability to become witches. In response, the little girl insisted she did have magic, because the roads lit up the moment she stepped on them. Ironically, the light vanished the moment they left the castle. That proved Coco didn't have magic like she thought she did. The guest was curious to hear more to confirm something. But before he could speak, a loud noise erupted outside. Curious, Coco ran out to see that the carriage had overturned. She learned that 2 mischievous boys had crawled underneath it as a prank. They accidentally startled the horses, causing the carriage to flip. No amount of bowing and apologizing could fix this situation now. If the flying carriage is broken, how can they go back? Besides, it was borrowed, so they're in big trouble with their father. The guest saw the damage wasn't too severe and offered to help. Putting on his hat, he introduced himself, "I am the wizard, Kifri." Relieved, everyone asked for his assistance. They thanked the wizard profusely. Excitedly, Coco asked her mother to let him use their workshop. She hoped to see him use magic to repair the carriage. Unfortunately, Coco was told to stay outside and keep watch so no one could see inside. She was disappointed. Why couldn't she go in and watch? There are many types of magic in this world that we don't know how to use. Only witches know those secret arts. Suddenly, she spotted the 2 boys from earlier sneaking toward the house. Even after being caught, they refused to leave. Seeing how stubborn they were, Coco decided to take a peek as well. She nervously opened the window, but it was completely covered. She could only sadly accept the reality that there was nothing she could do. Just then, a towel flew right into her. Coco suddenly remembered she hadn't closed the upstairs door. She sneaked inside, picked up her book, and wrestled with her conscience. In the end, her curiosity won out, and she peeked through. She was instantly mesmerized by Kifri's drawings. He was drawing magic with a pen, not using a wand like Coco had always imagined. Magic isn't a spoken incantation, it's something drawn. Coco was so engrossed that she almost forgot her duty to keep watch. Luckily, she ran back outside just in time and wasn't caught. After the carriage repairs were finished, Coco and her mother said their goodbyes to Kifri that afternoon. At first, her mother thought Coco would insist on going with the wizard. To her surprise, the girl was more well-behaved than expected. Having lost her husband to illness, the mother didn't want to be apart from her daughter at all. Coco had never even considered leaving. She didn't want to leave her mother all alone. She still wanted to stay by her side and share meals with her. Life was simple, but incredibly happy. That night, before returning to her room, the mother started to say something to her daughter, but then stopped. Coco didn't question it and simply wished her mother good night. Inside, she took a deep breath and took out her tools to study. The magic wand was actually a pen. And the gem on top was an ink reservoir. Coco wouldn't leave her mother, but she definitely had to try this. She focused on drawing scribbles on the paper, only to find they had no effect. No miracle occurred. However, magic finally happened the moment a drop of ink fell. It connected the lines and completed the magic circle. It created a beautiful firework display that made Coco overjoyed. She danced happily around the room, then scolded herself. Telling herself she'd play just one more time, she sat back down to draw. Deep in the forest, Kifri couldn't sleep after hearing Coco's story. Something seemed wrong about the book with the drawings the girl had. In her excitement, Coco almost burned down the room with a fire spell. Luckily, she put it out in time, or it would have been a disaster. She quickly realized that larger drawings held more power than smaller ones. The ones drawn carefully lasted longer than the sloppy ones. After some thought, Coco had the idea to trace the lines in the book. She meticulously traced over the paper, unaware of the danger. By the time Kifri arrived to stop her, it was too late. The spell had been activated, so he could only grab her and fly outside. He repeatedly asked what magic she had drawn, but Coco had no idea. "I just drew the pictures in the book." Before long, the house was encased in stone. Not realizing what was happening, her mother became a victim as well. She was completely swallowed up right before her daughter's eyes. Coco's attempts to save her were futile because it was forbidden magic. Despite this, the girl wouldn't listen and tried to rush back into danger. Kifri had to struggle to pull the stubborn girl away. It's natural Coco didn't know, magic is kept secret to prevent things like this. With special ink and predefined seals, anyone can cast a spell. Since she learned the ultimate secret of witches, Kifri was forced to erase her memory. But realizing Coco might have memorized the entire book, Kifri changed his mind and asked if she remembered what the book looked like. Coco nodded, saying she remembered the seals inside very clearly. "If I find a book like that, can you save my mother?" The girl earnestly begged the wizard not to erase her memories. She was willing to do anything to save her mother. Kifri accepted her request on the condition that Coco keeps the secret. At the same time, she must join the ranks of those who keep the secret to retain her memories. In other words, from now on, she will become a witch. Coincidentally, that was exactly what Coco had always dreamed of. Episode 2. Upon waking up, Coco found herself in a carriage with a wizard. She learned they were traveling to Kifri's atelier, where she would spend her time studying. Before leaving, Kifri had planted rosehip seeds around Coco's house. They would quickly grow into a hedge to ensure no one could get close. Seeing Coco still troubled by leaving her mother behind, Kifri comforted her and led her inside. "Don't blame yourself anymore. Starting today, this will be your new home." Then, he handed Coco a very strange-looking water pitcher. The girl was left puzzled, not knowing how to use it. She scrambled after him to ask, but he had already vanished. Suddenly, another girl spoke up, saying the spell wasn't anything scary. She friendly approached and explained it's called a vapor sphere. It's a spell that gathers moisture from the air into water. Just tilt the bottom slightly, and it'll flow out like a tap. Tesha is a cheerful girl who loves receiving thanks from others. She even thanks them in return, which makes Coco feel a bit awkward. Seeing this, Rick had advised the protagonist to just ignore her friend. If you don't want to get stuck, don't respond to her. Both are apprentice witches and students of Master Kifri. As for Coco, she was only there because of an incident. She wasn't an apprentice and had only learned about magic the day before. Hearing this, the other two became wary. Could Coco be some kind of chosen one? There's a rumor that if an outsider performs forbidden magic and doesn't have their memory erased, they become something extremely dangerous. Seeing Coco look frightened, Kifri interrupted the conversation. He told his two students to go study in their rooms and gave Coco some clothes to wear. After that, he took some time to explain everything to Coco. In ancient times, magic wasn't anything special. People only needed the right symbols and special ink to use it. Because it was so accessible, wars were constant. At that time, many terrible spells were created. Faced with this, the few good people left abandoned war and gathered as witches. They erased the knowledge of magic from the public and passed it only to apprentices to preserve the secret. Since then, people have always believed that only special individuals can use magic. If the truth were revealed, the wizarding world would immediately fall into chaos. Therefore, everyone is very careful about keeping the secret. The forbidden magic Coco used was one of the spells from the era of war. It is a harmful magic and has been banned since the day of the pact. Hearing this, Coco earnestly asked her master to teach her all the forbidden spells. She wanted to learn them so she could avoid them as much as possible. Understanding the fear the young girl carried, Kifri decided to reveal a few more things to her. There are many types of forbidden magic, such as spells that affect the human body or mind. For example, transformation or changing one's age, manipulating minds and emotions, inflicting injury or healing. Memory erasing magic is a rare exception. Magic is often tied to tools like carriages or lamps. The window Kifri was turning was one of them. He could use it to connect with windows of the same design. By changing the view, he let Coco admire the tower of books. Every book on magic is copied here as soon as it's written. Coco was eager to go there to find the forbidden book, but now wasn't the time. The tower of books is strictly guarded by a sea monster. A single flick of its tail is enough to create a massive wave. Furthermore, Coco needs to pass the librarian's trial. The tower is protected by 4 librarians. Only witches who pass the trial are allowed inside. To do that, Coco needs to learn. Knowing she was an eager child, Kifri was pleased and showed her the beauty of magic. The purpose of non-forbidden magic is to bring happiness to the world. This was exactly what Coco had always longed for. After the explanation, Master Kifri showed Coco to her room. Inside was an apprentice room for 2 people. Her private sleeping area was located under the stairs. He then went outside to contact someone, thanking them for accepting Coco as an apprentice. It was her first time seeing a witch's room, so she was a bit curious. But before she could touch anything, she was stopped by her senior, Agat. Agat was cold and had no intention of befriending Coco. Agat said she felt sorry for Coco's mother. Because of Coco's mistake, her mother can no longer be human. Since she was young, the senior had drawn seals until her hands were black with ink. She had to pass numerous exams to become a disciple. Therefore, Agat would never accept a mediocre, ignorant person. An outsider like you will never be worthy. But if you still want to prove yourself, we'll compete tomorrow. The tension was high when Tesha suddenly called them to eat. Expecting a feast as a welcome party for Coco, it turned out to be the usual bread and soup. Because of the rush, the master hadn't prepared anything special. Let's celebrate another time. Master Kifri is an amazing cook, so everyone loves his food. Even Coco, tasting it for the first time, was amazed by his skills. She praised him with wide eyes, but Kifri remained humble. He insisted it was only because the local vegetables were so good. That was Coco's first night sleeping in an unfamiliar bed. Naturally, she couldn't help but feel homesick and miss her mother. The next morning, Coco woke up early to think of a way to pass her senior's test. The problem was, she didn't know what the test would be. He approached to offer advice, startling his young student. There are many things about magic that books don't mention. Therefore, experience is the best way to learn it. To do that, Coco needed the tools to cast spells. The items her master gave her were top quality, and she was thrilled. Holding the magic pen made the young girl a bit nervous. But for her mother's sake, Coco was ready to face the challenge. However, after studying for a while, she was already exhausted. Though she struggled, at least she remembered a few basics. A magic seal has 3 components, the keystone in the center, the lines around it called arrows, and finally, the circle to close the seal. Keystones have attributes like water, fire, wind, and light. Arrows determine the type of spell as well as its size and direction. Once the outer circle is closed, the spell is cast. Remembering the basics after such a short time was impressive. Even so, Coco still couldn't cast a spell. She was too embarrassed to even show him. Kifri found it perfectly normal since she was just starting out. Wobbly, shaky lines are unavoidable at the beginning. The teacher carefully examined it and pointed out the flaw in the seal. If there's a gap in the circle, the spell won't activate. At this stage, beginners are like toddlers who can't stand steadily. But once she gets used to it, she'll be running around in no time. To activate the seal, Coco only needed to draw one more stroke to close it. She accidentally created a powerful jet of water that soaked her senior. On top of that, she ruined Agat's own spell, causing her to panic. But surprisingly, Agat didn't utter a single word of blame. Instead, she wanted to see Coco's sloppy seal. There was one arrow that was much longer than the others. It created too much pressure, causing the water to spray everywhere. Master Kifri praised his student for being so observant. He felt confident leaving Coco in Agat's care while he was away for a few days. I have to go to the Great Hall, so I'll be away for a few days. In the meantime, observe and learn from her. As soon as the teacher left the house, Coco realized with a chill that her senior still wanted to compete with her. She was so serious about it that it put a lot of pressure on the little girl.